Okay, so this time we're going to do a little sound check before we go into the introduction. So maybe Bell say a couple of words so we can check
Yep.
if it's equalized.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Testing.
So this
1,
time we're
2,
going to do a
3.
little
Do you hear me?
sound check before we go into the
How is my sound?
Okay, I think that was equal. At least for me, it sounded like it.
Good.
Okay, not getting any other feedback right here. So
I'm sure the viewers will let us know if there's any issues as well in the chat.
yeah, we will fix it along the way then.
Yeah. Maybe 1 minute early. Very punctual. We've got a few early arrivals in the chat as well, I can see.
Yeah. But so we already have the sound checked. That's already a little better than last time. This time we will also not only do an FAQ at the end of the stream, we will also do little chat sections after every topic, because there was some feedback that you gave us that you want more interaction.
That
And
makes sense.
we are going to follow that, of course.
Yep, absolutely. The audience are part of the show at the end of the day, so it'd be really good to get their opinions and get some good dialogue going with them.
So it's 6 o'clock, and that means welcome to Aion 2 Unlocked Episode 2. This time we have a couple of topics that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about macros, founder packs. Lots of people are currently deciding which class they should pick, so we're going to give some advice on that. And of course, we will go with an Ask Us Anything, so you can pop any questions at any time into the chat, and we will try to include them after every topic. And today I am joined by Belazarus, the guild lead of Eliav, a guild that was already founded way back then in Aion 2. And the rest of the introduction is for you, Belazarus.
Aion 1 actually, but we will absolutely be in Aion 2 as well. So yeah, I'll do a quick introduction. So yeah, as Pony said, I'm Belazarus, but everyone calls me Bell, so that's easier. I'm a veteran MMO player. Been playing MMOs since the 90s, believe it or not. I think my first MMO that I ever played was Ultima Online, if anyone's old enough to remember that. And to be honest, I pretty much exclusively play MMOs. I don't really play any single player games. I haven't for many years. So yeah, over the last 20 plus years, I've played everything from World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy 11 and 14, Elder Scrolls Online, Terra, of course Aion 1, where I created my legion, my guild, and we're still going strong now after 16 years of being around. Aleph is still going strong, and we're really excited about Aion 2 because we're going back to our roots. Obviously, we were formed in Aion 1, and we moved on to Terra, Elder Scrolls Online, FF14, and now we're finally coming home to where it all started in Aion. So yeah, we're really excited. A lot of the old gang are coming back for another round in Aion, and the hype is real. The Discord is popping off, and we're very fortunate to have Pony amongst our community. So yeah, very fortunate to have a big name as yourself join our little family. I'll say little family. We're quite a big family now, but yeah, that's a bit about me. So I'm not a streamer. We did have a podcast that we ran for quite a while called Alethcast. We might bring it back at some point. But yeah, I'm just a long-seasoned veteran MMO player. So lots of opinions and thoughts I've got to share today on Aion 2.
Okay, that sounds great. And as always, I have prepared a quickfire. That means I will pump out 10 words for Belazarus, and he will answer with the first thing that comes in mind when I say the word, just so you get to know a little bit of his stance on certain things before we dive into the topics a bit deeper. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Sounds fun.
Aion 1.
Oh, nostalgia.
Holy Trinity.
Classic MMO staple.
Pay to win.
Each to their own.
Assassin.
OP.
PvE.
Fun.
Stagger.
I'll say that again.
Stagger? Like stagger bar?
Oh, stagger. Um, yeah. Important.
Macros.
Convenience.
Subscription.
Necessary.
PvP.
Um, high energy.
Legions.
Community.
Okay. So now that we got to know him a little bit, the first question. Can you describe maybe the class variety of Aion 2 a little bit? Elaborate the differences to Aion 1, because you have lots of experience in Aion 1, and like see maybe how it compares to like other MMOs. And
Yeah.
maybe touch up a little bit on the topic of like, will Aion 1 veterans be disappointed when they go into Aion 2, or like how is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, no, I don't think Ion 1 players will be disappointed because they've brought back all the classics. So you've pretty much got the same lineup of classes that we had in Ion 1, your chanters, clerics, etc. And what I would say is that there is a difference between Ion 1 and 2. In Ion 1, initially they had the primary class, which was like your warrior, your mage, your scout, and then I think at level 10 it branched out to your main classes. So with Ion 2, they've just skipped that stage and you go straight in as one of the 8 classes. Um, and what I will say is that it's very classic traditional MMO, right? In terms of the class styles, the play styles, you have your Holy Trinity, as you mentioned. So you have your support classes, you have your DPS, which is split between casters, melee, your physical range, and then you have your tanks. And so, yeah, anyone who's played MMOs will be very familiar. It'll be very familiar territory. It's not going to be that revolutionary in terms of the class variety, and there is some good variety there. All of them are really fun in their own ways. And what I will say, Pony, is that it's really encouraging and exciting to see how quickly they're already introducing additional classes. Obviously, with the brawler being announced, they did not do that quickly in Ion 1. It took many years before they introduced new classes in Ion 1, and even in other MMOs they don't always introduce new classes, and when they do, sometimes it takes several years before they do that. So to see them already introducing new classes now in Ion 2, that's pretty promising. That's pretty encouraging. So yeah, I think all the stuff that you loved about the classes in Ion 1 will be there, but there's some new stuff in there as well. And of course the combat style is completely different because now it's a more modern real-time action combat for a modern day MMO. So yeah, I think the classes are great. I'm sure we'll talk about them in more detail, but that's I guess my overview and what I think of the classes.
Yeah, I have some follow-up questions. So you just slightly
Yeah.
touched on the Holy Trinity. In which one, Ion 1 or Ion 2, do you think the Holy Trinity concept is lived stronger?
In currently as it stands now, Ion 1. So in Ion 1, you needed to have a tank, a healer, and your DPS in order to clear any of the PvE content. It was more of a traditional Holy Trinity in that sense. It was possible to clear some PvE content like without a tank or a healer, but not easy at all. Whereas from what I've seen in Ion 2 so far, the Holy Trinity is a bit looser in the sense that there is some flexibility there. You can get away with having a couple of healers or not having a tank. From what I've seen so far, and it is early days, we're not in global yet. A lot of the balancing may change, and I've heard that they are planning on changing the balancing there so that you are more reliant on a full Holy Trinity split. I've heard that they are looking to tweak it slightly so that it is more in line with what we experienced in Ion 1, where you very much needed one of each. But at the moment, as it stands, from what I can see, is it's quite loose, isn't it? You can be quite flexible with your Holy Trinity.
I'd say especially in the early game.
Yeah.
You're just starting out fresh now on global release. At the start, you will feel it a little bit more. Once the people get a little power, they're power creeping the dungeon. That's going about fast runs and efficiency and not like learning the mechanics anymore. You will definitely see that tanks are not as much needed. but I also had no issues like finding a group as like a healer or a tank or whatever.
Yeah,
It's mainly if you have the required gear score to unlock a dungeon and then have the correct combat power for that team that is they're looking for, then you're good. So as long I
yeah,
would just not recommend anyone to use the quick join button because then you
yeah,
get random lobby and they say, yeah, we want 300k CP, but you only have
yeah.
250k, go for a 250k group now. So it's actually that
Yeah,
simple.
I don't mind that they're having a bit of flexibility there because it just makes it a bit easier for people to form up groups and do content together. So, but I don't think it should be so lenient that you can do any content without a tank or you can do any content without a support class because then you kind of lose the value of having that holy trinity and what makes your role special in your group. And so I do hope that they get the balance right so that to do especially the end game, more tougher PvE content, right? There needs to be that element of you need to have your support players, you need to have your tank. So hopefully they do nail that for global. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I will be playing a support character, probably a cleric, because I always play healer in all my MMOs.
Oh, I didn't know that you're also going to play cleric. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, a lot of people want to play cleric, and I don't blame them because it's a great job. But it's making me consider looking at chant, obviously as the other support class. If everyone's going cleric, I might go chant instead. But cleric has always been where my heart is. That's what I played in Iron One. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was looking at lots of class distribution charts and like polls that people did, like what classes they're going to play. And in basically every chart, it was like Ranger, by far the most popular class, sometimes
Yeah.
even twice as popular as like an Elementalist or Spirit Master, for example. And Cleric was always second. So
Mm.
I'm really surprised that Healer is so popular in Ion 2, because from many other games, I don't know, like if there was never like an overload of healers. When you would form a group, getting a healer or a tank was usually the hardest thing to do. And I feel like in Ion 2, so far I did not have any of those issues in the queues.
I'm not that surprised actually, and I'll tell you why. There's two things that are really attractive about playing a cleric. Number one is that every party needs a healer. So in terms of being able to find groups quickly and easily, to your point, if you're a cleric, you're not going to have a hard time finding a group, right? And the second point is survivability, right? So being out in the world doing solo content, being able to survive, keep yourself alive is a nice thing to have as a player. So yeah, I can see the attractiveness to cleric, and also how badass is a mace and a shield, right? So everyone wants to play with a mace and a shield. So, but yeah, I'm not that surprised that cleric's quite popular.
Okay. Because I was looking at it from like a standpoint of like other games and like comparison, where healer is often not that popular because it cannot
Yeah.
like any like good damage, especially when you have to farm like a lot of content solo. But with the
Yes.
recent changes they did to Cleric, where they buff basically all the abilities in PvE, I feel like that the downside of the Cleric, like the slower clear speed in PvE, is getting smaller and smaller from patch to patch. So I
Yeah.
think you can have like the feeling of playing a ranged DPS and still be healing on top of that, and not only
Yeah.
be a healer, big Cleric.
Yeah. Exactly. I think you're right. I think the the fact that farming mobs in the world was or is a lot slower as a cleric was definitely a downside. But yeah, if they're making improvements on that front, as you say, it's almost like you're playing a caster DPS who also has healing, right? If you have that balance, then it's quite a fun job to play.
Especially the bolt skill, that reminds me so much of Mage, where you're like summoning this thunderbolt from the sky.
Yeah,
Like, I think that skill is like the most not fitting to the class identity, I would say.
yeah. Does it not give you very Thor vibes because you've got a mace that's a bit like a hammer, and a lot of the skills are like lightning based, so it gives you a bit of Thor vibes, I think.
About the Mace, I was also surprised. Like usually I see healers with like staff, orbs, or like books or whatever in games. It's the first time that it's like a really aggressive offensive melee weapon, and then
Yeah.
you're doing attacks. So yeah.
It wasn't unusual to me because Ion 1 it was like that as well, right? They've kept the weapons the
Ever
same
say
pretty much
why?
in line. Say again.
Did they ever say why it was like that? Is there like lore to it or?
Do you know what there's because I like a lot of the lore of Ion. I'm a big fan of the lore, and there isn't a lot of lore on the classes, to be honest. I don't remember them really going into a lot of the lore around the reason why classes use certain weapons, etc. I'd have to look. I'll have to do some research, but no, I'm not sure.
So let's maybe switch to the second topic.
Mhm.
Like Abyss, highly discussed, no? Also in terms of how valuable is time spent versus like money put into your character and whatever. And to maybe prevent this and have more fair matchmaking, they have recently changed it, how the Abyss are matching. So it was 400 versus 400. Now it's 300 versus 300 players, and they're not matching servers anymore. So they're
Yeah,
just like now letting people randomly get matched in there until it's basically full, and then they will go and open another realm or like balance multiple realms at the same time. So,
yeah.
so what do you think about that? Is that like a good change or is that a bad change?
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts on it. So firstly, let's focus on the reduction of player count from 400 to 300. Um, Personally, I think that if that helps with server stability, things like frames per second, making it more manageable for people who don't have very high-end PCs, then I'm okay with it. 300 still feels like a lot of players, like a 300 versus 300 player battlefield, effectively. Still feels pretty big, and I'm not sure it'll be that noticeable from 400. So I'm guessing they're doing it to help with server stability and frames per second and performance, right? And for me, I'm fine with that. Like I say, we'll see once we're in, but I don't have any major reservations with that if they're doing it for the right reasons. As for the second point around the matching, the faction matching, um, I actually think this could be a positive move, and I'll tell you why. It's because when you have got fixed matching between two servers, you could have a scenario where one server, has a PvP guild that's like massively overpowered, right? And they just end up dominating the Abyss map indefinitely, right? And you know that if you're on this faction, you're always going to be winning in the Abyss, and if you're on that faction, you're always going to be losing because everyone knows that the Asmos or the Ilios have got that guild that always dominates the map. So I think by making it more random, you might help keep things a bit more balanced, and you've got a fighting chance regardless of what server you're on because it's always different each time. So you might go in once and get obliterated, but you go in the next day and your side's winning because it's a different mix of players, right? So I'm generally a fan of the randomization of it. The only downside I can think of is that you do lose a little bit of that whole identity thing, right? Where you're proud of your server, right? And you start getting familiar with the different guilds between the factions. So oh, those are those guys, we know them. And those are those guys, we know them. So you lose a little bit of that, I guess, server identity, right? From a competition perspective. But I think the stuff I talked about earlier, the benefits outweigh that in terms of just keeping things balanced, giving everyone a fighting chance. I think that is a good trade-off to lose some of that identity stuff. That's my general thoughts on it.
I think it's even a little bit better than you just said, because you said when you do like go in there one day later, no? You might have a
Yeah, yeah,
different match. But it feels like before you were stuck for 1 week. If you had a bad matchup, sucks to you, and now you're not farming any artifacts properly, and then you're just done, you're not getting any progress. Now, like you only can wait like an hour and go inside again and have a
right.
completely different experience.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
it
I think
reduces
it's
the
great.
time people have to endure like a bad experience in PvP for a longer duration. And I think that in itself makes the Abyss PvP a little more enjoyable. And they've also added those different tiers where you can go there with lower CP and stuff like this. But yeah, I think they still need to do a little bit of tweaking, but at least they're
Mhm.
already trying to make it a little bit more fair. So it's not like a Giga Whale killing all the newcomers and like
Yeah.
ruining all of their fun.
You still with us, Pony? I think I've lost.
Do you
I think
want
I've
to
lost.
touch?
Oh, I think you're back. I think I lost your sound for a moment
Yeah,
there, but I think you're back.
good. Let's touch a little bit on how the characters are looking and the designs of them. Of course, the females, no, like over sexualized as like Korean MMOs. They said they're not doing
Yeah.
any changes to that for global. And now they're also adding a system where you can like save your own presets and then sell them to other players. Do you think this
Yes.
is like a good approach, or is that something bad for the game's future?
I don't mind it, and I'll tell you why. I think it's good that they're obviously using in-game currency, not real currency. I might have a different opinion if it was real currency, but I don't mind it as an in-game currency market system. And the reason for that, Pony, is because there's a lot of players like me who are just not very creative and not very good at the character creator. And if I want a really cool looking character and I've got the option to to purchase some really good creations that people in the community have made, then it's kind of a win-win. I get a cool looking character, and they get to use their skills and their talents and benefit from that. So I don't mind it so much. The only risk I can think of, and to be honest, it's a small risk, is that you end up with 100 Scarlett Johanssons running around the town where you've got like one preset that becomes really popular and everyone buys it, right, and everyone ends up looking the same, and then you lose a little bit of the unique character uniqueness. But I don't think it's a major issue because you'd have to be really paying attention to notice people running around at the same presets. So I think it's a small risk. Overall, I'm fine with it. Like yeah, I'm a fan of creativity and giving people choice. So yeah, it's a new concept. I haven't seen it done before in many MMOs, so I am curious to see how it will play out. Maybe there's some economy issues that I haven't considered, but yeah, my first impressions are sounds like a neat idea.
Yeah, I also like the thought of it because I think that like lots of people are looking for like earn something on it, no? Like those apps, like do like a little gaming quiz or whatever to earn like a couple of cents. They're really popular, even though it pays out really little. So I think that could incentivize a bunch of people to come into the game, and maybe they learn to enjoy it. And I also think it brings some appreciation to like artists maybe that put their stuff in there, no? But
Yeah,
it
I agree.
also some cash grabbers that will probably put celebrities via AI in there and try to make a quick buck out of it, right? And no matter if it's
Yeah,
not currency, if it's Kuna or Kina, they are gonna sell it on their sites now. And
yeah.
thank
I
you
mean,
very
there is.
much, and he gave 9. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I think there will be some people, some critics who will say, if you've got like real life celebrities running around in the game, does that break the immersion, right? Does that make the game feel less authentic? If you've got like real life celebrity looking people running around the game, like, Michael Jackson's running around, does that break some of the immersion? But again, I'm personally not that precious about it. I kind of have a mentality of live and let live, let people look however they want to look. But yeah, I think some critics might not want to see, Madonna running around um, the world,
Maybe
but we'll see.
maybe if people are deeper into the lore and care a lot about it, they would mind
Yeah,
more. I personally would also not mind. Also, I think in terms of like marketing, like the collaboration that they did with like the K-pop stars, maybe in our country something different than that, but I think it's a good approach to get like marketing there. There have been many games that have been like really successful with this crossover marketing strategy,
yeah,
and I've seen like too many MMOs so far do it. So I think it's good that they're already on that approach in terms of like generating new players for a longer time and gaining a retention rate.
Yeah, I agree. I can't see many downsides to it, honestly. I'm not that precious about it.
Yeah, what you're maybe more precious about is the release date. Because so far,
Mm,
nothing officially confirmed, right? We had two leaks.
yep.
The first leak was in the Purple launcher, where it said 17th of September. Then we got the leak with the founder packs, where it said 30th of September. So, do you think the 30th is the real date now? And they just been quiet and for some reason not confirming it? Or do you think we still don't even know the real date yet?
Personally, until NCSoft officially announced the release date, I will take everything with a pinch of salt, even what we're seeing on Steam. Um, there's a good chance that the 30th is the date because it's on Steam and it's on the Purple launcher as well. But it's not, for me, it's not 100% confirmed until NCSoft say it is, right? There have been occasions in the past where a developer has informed Steam, for example, that their game is coming out in October, and Steam will list it as 30th of October just so that it covers the whole of October until they know the actual date. Now, that may be what's happened here. Some people have said that, but equally, if it's on the Purple launcher as well, then there's a higher probability that that is the release date. But I will not be booking my holiday from work until NCSoft officially announce it, and I'm expecting perhaps Gamescom might be the first time that we get the final actual confirmation from NC, but we will see. I hope, yeah, we know it's going to be in September, right? They've already said it's in September, so yeah.
Yeah, I will go and wait until Gamescom is over. And
Yeah.
if they haven't said anything after Gamescom, then I will just book my vacation on for the
Yeah.
30th.
I think I'll do the same because similar to you, I need to give notice at my work to book time off. So yeah, I think I'll give it till Gamescom, and then if nothing is confirmed there, I'll just book it based on the 30th, and fingers crossed.
So you did say that you're going to play Cleric. Would you
Yes.
also recommend Cleric for players that are free to play and do not want to spend any money, like not even the sub, like they want to be like completely clean for the same reasons that you said, like sustain, or do you think like any other classes maybe like way better?
If you want my honest opinion, when I'm giving people advice or guidance on what class to play, I tend to focus less on the monetization of the game and focus more on what do you enjoy playing, because you're going to be playing that job for hours and hundreds of hours, right? I would always say to people, just try out different jobs, try a few out, see which one clicks with you, which one do you enjoy, and then play that. So my personal opinion is, unless you're really trying to be a hardcore min-maxer, like a very competitive elitist player, I wouldn't worry about that. I would just play the class that you enjoy the most, the one that appeals to you the most in terms of style, combat style, visual, aesthetic, all of that stuff. Play the job that you find fun, and that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Um, Many people are looking for like those answers for those kind of questions, no? So because they want to have like an easier time or whatever, and they are like more adjustable to classes.
Yeah.
But
But but try
I
them
think
out. So I think trying them out will give you a good idea of which job works well for you and your play style, and your skill level. I think trying the jobs out, there's nothing better than trying the jobs out yourself, because that will give you the best indication of what you're going to enjoy the most for the long term.
it's not a lot of effort because you only need to get them to level 14. Then you already have access to all the active skills, so you can see how a
Yeah,
class feels and if it's
yeah, no,
like mutations and stuff like this.
I appreciate that. Yeah, unless you get the game, unless you get the class to maximum level with all the skills unlocked, you're not going to get a full picture of how that job plays. I totally understand that point. But what I would say is that even just playing a job, just the up until, I don't know, level 10, 15, unlock the first few skills will give you a feel for the job. It'll give you a taster for the job, and you get a sense of, okay, I kind of get what this job is about. And that's what I've always done in my MMOs. Whenever I've started a new MMO, I'll just spend the first couple of days, literally just the first 2 days or 3 days, just trying the first few levels of every job and just seeing which one feels good to me, and then I'll stick with the one that feels best. But yeah, I mean, if you want to make a more informed decision longer term, then yes, you can look at some video guides of people reviewing each of the classes at an end game from an end game perspective, and then you can make an informed decision based on all that information. I haven't played all the classes in Aion 2 Pony, so I couldn't sit here and say, right, I've played all 8 classes to level 45, so I can now tell you play this job if you want this, because I haven't got the personal first-hand experience, so I wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, I still stick to my advice of just give them a try, even if it's just the early stages of the classes, because it will give you a good feel.
Which ones did you play so far?
So my favorite classes in Ion 2 are Cleric, obviously is my number one. My number 2 is Spirit Master. I've always played like summoner type jobs in all my MMOs for my DPS. I love playing caster. And for tank, I've probably played Templar, I would say.
Yeah, that's the only true tank. Like the Gladiator,
Absolutely.
I think that in the end you're gonna want to have the Templar, especially for the
I
rest later.
Exactly. I always have 3 characters in Ion and in my MMOs. I have one healer, which is usually my main. I usually main a healer, and then I'll have one DPS. It's usually a caster, and then I'll have a tank, so that I can be flexible, join different groups, be available for lots of different activities. But yeah, those are probably my 3 favorite jobs in Ion, I'd say.
Okay. If you had to choose to only play range or melee for the rest of your life,
Oh, range, definitely. Because
like
with range,
you also too. Like I also made a poll on YouTube where I asked like if people prefer melee or range.
yeah.
It didn't get like thousands of answers, but it was like 20 to 80%. So like 20 people percent playing melee, 80% playing rather ranged.
But I tell you, a big part of that reason is that when you're a ranged player, I think it makes it a bit easier, like farming mobs out in the world. And obviously being able to keep distance, in general is quite a good ability to have, whether you're doing PvP or whether you're farming mobs. So I think it is like from a utility perspective, it's quite convenient being a ranged player. But melees are generally usually a much higher DPS in terms of raw um, you know, um,
Yeah, burst.
player to an enemy, DPS output. Normally melees are more powerful, but range just gives you that more utility. So
So I think I lost it.
we've got a lot of topics to cover, Buddy. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. You were ranged to melee, right? And
Yeah,
I think that if you're range and you can kite well, you will always have an advantage because games often tend to not put enough gap closers in the kits, right? The gap closers usually get added again later on, or like balance out, reduce cooldowns and stuff like this. So usually on the launch, range is like I would say mostly better than melee. Yeah, but
yeah. I mean, in most MMOs, when you're farming mobs out in the world, one of the go-to strategies is you run around the map and you just shoot off arrows. If you're a ranger, you shoot off arrows at all of the mobs, right? And then you just herd them around until you've got them all in a cluster, and then you just AOE them down until they're all dead. And that's one unique play style that usually only ranged players can do. So whether you're a caster like sorcerer or a ranger, you can do that, right? You just gather up all the mobs, keep them at distance so they don't hit you, and then just AoE them down.
I really like their playstyle. I think it's even, for my taste, it's even nerfed too much in Ion 2 because you
Right.
do not have the real AoE skills. Like the skills are limited to hitting 4 mobs. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
like coming from Life Universe where you could AoE like 150 mobs or something like this, no? So it feels a bit
Yeah.
underwhelming compared to other games, but you still have the kite feeling there.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone's played Black Desert Online, you'll know all about that. You can gather up hundreds of mobs. It's insane. Yeah.
So not that we already just mentioned Black Desert Online, also I would say like an action-packed game with interesting combat. How do you think are
Yeah.
macros influencing the combat in Ion 2? Do you think it's a good thing that they're in the game or not?
Are you saying how do I think Black Desert has influenced Ion 2? Is that what you're asking?
No, macros. Like how much are the
Oh,
macros
macros. Yeah.
combat in Ion 2?
Yeah, so honestly, this is a controversial topic, Pony. You're gonna get me in trouble here because this is one of those divisive topics where people really are against it or they're really a fan of it. I'll tell you where I stand with it. I won't sit in the fence. I'm fine with macros. And I'll tell you the reason why is that for me it means it makes the game a bit more accessible to a wider um, level of experience player. So there are a lot of players out there who love MMOs, but they struggle with really complicated rotations, and especially when you have loads of skills. And giving them the ability to set up their macros to make their rotations a little bit more manageable for them means that they can enjoy the game as much as those who are skilled to do it without a macro, right? So, for me, macros are optional, right? If you're a purist and you want to execute all your skills yourself through your own sheer skill, then don't use macros. But if you're a casual player who's perhaps just not as experienced and skilled as others, but you still want to enjoy the game, and you could and a few macros is going to help you with your rotations and help you to keep up to speed with the other players, then I think it's a useful tool. I think it's a useful, convenient tool. So yeah, I'm a fan of it. I will probably play around with it myself because I am a bit of a casual player. I mean, I'm a pretty good MMO player. I do endgame raiding and all of that stuff, so I could manage without the macros. But if it's there, I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna have a look and see if it will make my life a little easier. So yeah, I'm not that against macros, but I can understand the perspective of those who are like, you're removing the skill from the game, and I want to do really good in this content because I've mastered and I've perfected my rotations and my skills, and I want to be rewarded for that. I don't want somebody else who hasn't put in all the work to master their rotations to still be able to dish out the same DP. I get that perspective. I can empathize with that, but my overall view is just live and let live, right? Let people play the way they want to play. If you don't want to play with macros, don't. But if macros help you enjoy the game more, then go for it. That's my personal opinion. Hopefully, I don't upset too many viewers.
Yeah, maybe to follow up on that. The the thing, like I am also for the macro being into the game, but for like a completely different reason. In terms of like me enjoying PvP, wanting to have a skill matchup, like I do not want to have any macros. But we are at a point where the technology is so strong, everyone has it in their mouse. Like my keyboard has it, my mouse has it. I can download the software to do it.
Yeah.
And you cannot detect that anymore really properly because you now have like AI generated inputs that you're not setting like 10 millisecond delay anymore. The AI will make it like defer so it looks like a human is actually pressing the buttons, right? So it's undetectable.
Yeah.
I think from that sense, if the macro is in the game, everyone has access to it, it equals out the playing field a bit. Because
Yeah.
only the people that want to cheat or whatever will use it, and the other ones will don't, and that will create like this thing that already happened in Korea where everyone was saying, oh, they're macroing, blah, 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 and they banned players. They were not able to solve the problem by banning them, so they just put it in the game so it's a fair and equal playing field.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. To be honest, macros are very common now in MMOs. Pony, that they've become a bit of a staple. People expect to have a macro system in most MMOs nowadays. So I think you're fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting against the current if you're trying to avoid players using macros, because like you say, people will find ways to use macros with or without the game. So at least, as you say, with it being built in game, everyone has access to that, right? So it does create a level playing field. So yeah, I think you just have to accept the reality of where we are with MMOs and not get too hung up on it, so that you can still enjoy the game. But yeah, I'm pretty much with you on that one.
Maybe, like, how much money do you usually spend on games?
Well, like I said to you earlier, I pretty much play MMOs exclusively. I will happily pay a subscription fee because I want to help fund the game. And I know society said something similar when you had him on last time, that it's important that the game developers have a good income stream so that they can keep developing new content for us, keep updating the game. So I don't mind paying a sub. On my current MMO before Aion 2, I was paying a sub. I don't know, it was about £10, I think. Is that euros? Maybe 14 euros a month. And then I'll spend some money on the cash shop, but really just for cosmetic stuff. I don't mind buying buying a mount here and there. But if you're asking me on average, how much will I be willing to spend per month on an MMO? I would be okay spending up to maybe 20 to 30 pounds a month. In euros, that's probably about 35, 30, maybe between 35, 40 euros a month. I'd be okay spending, but that's because I have a philosophy of I'm supporting the game development company. That means they're going to create more content and keep the game in good shape for us, and I get some perks out of it as well. So that's how much I'd spend on an MMO.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is fair. Like, I think if someone would say, okay, all the MMOs that would release now are like, I don't know, 20 euro sub or whatever, I don't think like a lot of people would complain about that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it would balance out the thing, how to say it, like also the perception. But I'm also like, I often catch myself at that thought that it does not matter what the games are doing. Like, as long as they have any form of auction house or trade active, the people will RMT. And RMT is not like the dark stuff that it used to be. It's so normalized. So many people are doing it. And like in the top rankings, you will not find a single top ranking where you do not have armed healers in there, right? So I'm not sure if maybe the correct way for a game could also be do not have it in the game at all and be like self-found. So building everything around your system, balancing drop rates and everything around self-found, so you have no RMT issues, and then doing the subscription. I think a combination of this could like pop off
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really mind how these companies create their income stream. I just believe there needs to be some kind of income stream because I don't think, and I agree with society on this, I don't think people should expect games to be free, completely free, because who's paying for the game to be made? Who's paying all those developers? Who's going to keep the servers running and create new expansions and updates for us? That has to be paid for, right? So I'm kind of with society that I don't agree with this entitled mindset that I should have the game free to play, free to install, free to play. I should get absolutely everything in the game 100% free. I should never have to go in a cash shop. I should never have to do any sub. I should never have to get. It should just be free, because I don't think a company can survive realistically that way, and I don't think we should expect game development companies to fund these games that cost millions. Where's that money coming from? So it doesn't make
Yeah.
commercial logical sense to me, but maybe I'm old school, Pony. I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s playing the original MMOs where everything had a sub, so maybe I'm old school, but
Yeah, I think if everyone would behave like this, wanting everything for free, then our games would be running commercials nonstop.
yeah, exactly. They'd need to do
Yeah,
something, right? Yeah,
to define the game. And like, what are people doing? They're paying Netflix so they don't have to watch commercials in the normal regular TV, right? They pay Prime extra. I think for us it's
yeah,
euro a month extra to not have commercials and stuff.
exactly.
So like people pay a lot of money to have like a good experience, right? And not being interrupted. So why not pay a sub? And also something that I don't get, like when I decide to buy something for myself, I always look on like the amount of time that I can spend with it and have fun. So if I'm buying like a game and it's a single player game and I pay like 40 euro for it and I get like 20 hours of playtime out of it, and then I buy a subscription for like a whole month, I'm playing like 2 hours every evening after work, then
Yeah.
like value that I'm getting for my time spent is like so much higher. And I think lots of people, they're only comparing like the actual pricing and not the time that they're getting out of what they're paying.
Yeah, I mean, Pony. Yesterday, my partner and I watched Supergirl. We rented it for I think 25 euros, right? So we paid 25 euros for 2 hours of entertainment, right? And a sub for Ion is less than that, and you get a whole month of entertainment, right? So that puts it into perspective, right? If you're willing to pay 25 euros for 2 hours of entertainment, then why wouldn't you be willing to pay, was it 15 euros for a whole month? There we go.
Yeah. I think it's like value perception. But also,
Yeah,
in some parts, they could also improve their marketing a little bit, no? Because, how to say it? Like, they made the changes to the set, right? So they combined all the multiple ones
yeah,
into one, which the people didn't like to listen to the community. They reduced the prices significantly, almost by 50%. But did they market that properly? They talked about that in the chapter one release, and then afterwards, I saw, I don't know, like nothing going on. It was like a big critique point, no? And then they did not use that positive message to put it out there, and it kind of got forgotten. And now everyone is saying, "Oh yeah, stuff is stupid." So
yeah.
look
It's
at
it's a difficult balance, right? Because they don't want to be constantly drawing attention to the monetization of the game, and the more they talk about it, the more they're going to get people talking about it, right? So I think they just wanted to say, look, we've done the right thing, we've listened to your feedback, here's the new price, let's move on. And I think NC were quite keen to just get it out there and move on and talk about the actual game and talk about all the other exciting stuff, right? I think if they were to promote and ram it up too much, I think it could become a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where people just end up focusing on it even more. And I think they just want to move on from it. But yeah, people are always gonna find something to complain about. So I think it's very fair where they've landed with it. It's very in line with a lot of other MMOs. I don't think realistic if you're looking at it rationally and logically, I don't think you can have too much beef with where they've landed with the sub, especially as it's an optional sub as well. So yeah, I think they've done the right thing.
I think the sub price is fine. Like the
Yeah.
current exchange is what I think is unnecessary. And I would even say that in the long term, they would earn more money if they wouldn't have it in the game. But also on the other side, I think I mentioned it previously before, that they did purchase a German company with getting all the spending behavior of the last 5 years of the European gaming community, at least large parts of it. And
Mhm.
they are using that data, right, to see how they want to monetize their game. Also, on the early access packs and founder packs, like I was so surprised that so many people are still buying the expensive options. Like for me, the value of those packs was so bad that like it's only worth it for me to buy like the smallest version of it. And like I also did a poll on that. More than 50% of people are still willing to buy the early access packs, even though there's nothing inside. And I think if there would be something inside, that would be like what, 60% or whatever. So I don't know.
Do you want to know something, Pony? Don't judge me. Don't judge me too harshly. But I got the ultimate founders pack, and I can tell you why. I can tell you why. It's because I know that if you're just looking at it from a value perspective, value for money, I know that it's not good value, right? And I wouldn't recommend or urge other people to get the ultimate founders pack. But I'm one of those people that whenever a new MMO comes out, and the founders packs get released, I just want to go into the game with all of the perks available, even though in this case you're just talking about some skins, right, and and a mount and some nice wings. Those are little things, right? But for me personally, they're not little things. For me, they're nice things to have to go into the launch of the game with. So for me personally, I don't mind spending that money on it. But also, Pony, I see it as I'm investing in NC here. I'm giving NC a nice big chunk of money hoping that it'll go to good use, right? It'll go towards development costs in the future. So I'm seeing it as I'm supporting the company, and I'm also getting a few nice perks for launch day. So it is all about perspective and what do you personally deem as value. And I know for most people that's not good value, and I completely respect that. I completely appreciate that. I wouldn't expect anyone else to have my mindset. But I know there's others with my mindset as well. So yeah, I'm one of those people. I did get the ultimate final spec, but not because I'm a whale, not because I'm a hardcore player, not because I'm trying to be the best in the game. I just want to support the company, and actually, I quite like those wings. So does that make me a bad person? Hey, so be it.
Definitely not making you a bad person. But I'm interested in the decision making. Did While you were buying, did you consider that the stuff is not exclusive and they can resell it at any time? And did
Yeah,
that
of
make
course.
that annoy you? Or do you say like I
No,
don't care about that decision?
yeah, they might add the stuff in later and let other people get it. I'm fine with that. I get to have it on day one. I get to enjoy it in the first few days, first few weeks. And I'll have fun. I'll have fun when the game launches in early access with my shiny wings and my mount. And when they open up to other people later, good for them. I'll be happy for them. I'm not that, yeah, I don't get bitter about things like that. Again, maybe I'm too old, but yeah, I did absolutely consider that they'll probably make the stuff available to everyone later, and I'm fine with that.
Do you think that the player-driven market in MMOs could be way more exciting if every cosmetic that they produced would be like limited and it could be sold between players later on?
Run that by me again, Pony. I think I got
So,
what you're asking, but I want to make sure.
like right now, they have in their terms of service that everything that they're selling can is not exclusive and can basically be resold at any time, probably for
Hmm.
liability. Okay, so they don't claim anything somewhere. And how about, let's say the game has let's say it has 10,000 players, active players, and every week they are launching one new costume, but they will only sell 1,000 pieces of it. So it's only always limited. First come, first serve. And
Right.
then afterwards, there would be like a community in the auction house or whatever, where like rare costumes from long, long, long time ago with maybe a cheap high prices. So you have like an additional community to it that is like really focused on collecting those things and stuff like this.
They do actually have that system in place in Final Fantasy 14 online, which I'm currently playing. There are limited edition items that they don't sell anymore, but they did sell, and they're tradable items that people have put on the market board for insane amounts of money. So what you described there actually does already happen in some MMOs, like Final Fantasy 14. And you don't see a lot of people in FF14 rioting about it. I think people just accept that it happens. Um, I think I can understand, I can empathize with the frustration for collectors who want to try and collect everything in the game, and they are now having to find insane amounts of Kina, etc., to get like a rare item. So I can empathize with those people. I think it does kind of suck. So I can understand that. But equally, it is something that other game development companies have done. If it does help create, another source of income for them, obviously when they're selling those limited items, then I guess that's a good thing for the developers. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of medium about it. So where I'd probably put myself. I feel for the collectors. I feel bad for the collectors, but I also think the game development company are allowed to do it if they want to do it. But yeah.
I think Ion 2 is missing a bit of exclusivity. Like there's no like items that you will get that only you have or like a handful of people that's like extremely rare. You
Right.
can not have like completely different builds and skill builds. Like even
Mm.
what you roll on your weapons or whatever is mostly fixed, sometimes even across classes. So yeah, I think for like keeping people really attached to things, I think they should add some form of exclusivity. And in terms
Mm.
of like gameplay items, I think they are already too deep into non-exclusive things, things that always upgrade going into the vertical progression. So I
Mm.
think exclusivity on cosmetics at least will give them like an additional market, but it will also
Yeah.
mean that they will earn less money for the resales, and the players instead will start earning money with reselling those, and they will basically earn less CUNA then, because reselling costumes might be efficient then.
Yeah. I get that. There's a few ways that they could create what you're talking about, where you have these, unique items, and that gives you a real unique identity in the game. But there's other ways they can do it. For example, like seasonal events, right? So when they host certain events in the game where you can get this rare glamour items, and then after that event, you can't get it anymore, right? And it's not tradable, so you can't buy it on the marketplace either. But when that event comes around again, maybe the same time next year, you get another chance of getting one of those rare items, right? So that's one way you can do it. But also in other MMOs, once you reach a point where there's so much PvE content available, with a lot of different rewards available to get, then you end up at a point where there's such a variety of equipment and weapons and skins out there that people can create that individuality and have those unique items. Oh, that's really cool. Where did you get that from? Oh, I got it from this, raid that nobody does anymore. But back, 3 years ago, when everyone was doing that raid, that's where that weapon came from. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, there's other ways that you can get that uniqueness without just stuff being sold on the cash shop, right? So I think NC should just be creative with, how and where you get unique skins from. It doesn't just have to be from the shop. It could be through events. It could be through in-game PvE activities, PvP activities. Just make lots of different ways and avenues in which, or even crafting, right? Maybe there's certain items that are very, very difficult to craft, where you have to get very rare crafting materials, and maybe you get those rare crafting materials from lots of different activities. So you have to do that dungeon to get that material, then you have to do that PvP activity to get the second material, and then you've got to go and do something else to get, and then you craft this item which is very unique, and people say, wow, that's so cool, where did you get that from? So, well, I crafted it, but I had to get all these materials from all this place in order to craft it. So those are some other ways that you can create that environment of uniqueness.
So with the season things, I would be like totally on your page, because I would say like in a mild way, they already implemented it, like to get like those titles and stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
But I think they could bump that up a lot. So like
Hmm.
people are actually looking forward for those season rewards. And but the other
Hmm.
thing just mentioned where
Crafting.
where the thing is, yeah, I don't think that would be like a good idea, because as soon as it's in crafting, it's not rare. Because the items can be bought in the auction house, so it's not rare, it's just more expensive. And like if something is only rare because it's more expensive and less people can afford it, I don't think it has like that kind of feeling compared to if you actually did like an achievement to get it.
But what about crafting items that can't be traded? So as soon as you craft it, it's bound to your character.
But they don't exist. And then
Oh, they don't exist yet, but guess what? They did exist in Iron 1. So you never know is all I'm saying. All I'm trying to say is that there are other avenues that NC could go down. They could explore other ways like that, right? Because if it's not tradable, then it's going to be unique, right? You have to make it to have it. And so I just think having a variety of ways to get unique items is the point that I'm getting across. There should be many ways that you can get unique items through crafting, through PvE, through PvP, through seasonal events, through whatever. Right? There should be lots of different ways that you can, through achievements, lots of different ways that you can get unique items. I think that as much variety as possible, I think is important.
I think in the early days, like people didn't mind to grind really long for like a single item.
Mm.
And now I feel like the time that people are willing to grind for like one thing, or like even like doing like really long-term things in games,
Yeah.
are going lower and lower, probably also due to many games failing after a couple of months, so no one wants to do a long invest before a game proved that a long invest is worthy. But what
Yeah.
do you think? What's like the sweet spot of like not getting it really fast and easy, but also not having it so long that the majority is not willing to get it? Like how much time invest per item?
Yeah, there needs to be a ladder, right? So there needs to be a feeling of progression as you play the game, right? The longer you play the game, the more rewarded you are and the more rewarding it feels. What you don't want is a situation where you play the game for 1 month and you have everything that's available in the game. You've basically finished the game, right? And then you just move on to another MMO. That's no good, right? But you also don't want to create a system where everything you're trying to get to takes months and months to get to, because people are, as you say, people don't have the patience and they don't have the time these days to do that. What you need is a ladder where you have steps of progression, and so a week, a day of playing, you'll get something out of that day. A week later, you get something out of that week. 2 weeks, you get, and so there's constant reward and constant progression. So you cater for those who just want, who can only play an hour or two each day. You cater for those people, but you also cater for those people who are pumping in hundreds of hours. There is reward for them doing that as well, right? That's what I think is the winning recipe for any MMO nowadays. Is you need to cater for both types of player. If I'm honest, that's where you get the longevity of the game, right? Where it never feels like you finished the game. There's always something just around the corner. There's just another bit of progression, another gear piece, another upgrade just around the corner. And you never quite get to that point where you've finished the game. That shouldn't be possible in an MMO. But equally, if I can only play a couple of hours a week, I should feel like those couple of hours matter, and I've got something out of those couple of hours, right? That, I know that's a bit of a vague answer to your question, but that's the philosophy I think that they should go for when it comes to time invested to gear progression.
Why do you think so many players care about how fast the other people are progressing in PvE compared to their own speed? Even though
I,
it's like something that, like, why would a free-to-play player care how fast a whale is progressing?
I don't think most people do care, Pony. I think most players are not worried so much about what the next player is, how fast the next player is progressing. They just want to enjoy the game themselves and progress at their own pace. But I think what happens, Pony, is that the few people, the small percentage of people who do care, make a lot of noise about it. So when you go onto Discords and the forums, you see a lot of complaints from people saying, "Oh, this isn't fair, that isn't fair. I need to be able to progress faster." Often what you find is that the minority of it's a minority of loud voices that you're seeing and that you're hearing there. But I think the everyday normal player isn't actually that competitive. You have to be quite a competitive person to care that much about how fast the next person is progressing. And I think you're talking about maybe 5 or 10% of players that care that much about how fast the next person is progressing, and I must be faster than them, and I need to get. There are players who are that competitive. Absolutely, there's definitely that player base, but they're not the majority, is what I'd say. That's from my personal experience anyway. The majority of people just don't complain and make noise on Discord about it. They just play the game and have fun, and they're just quiet about it, right? So you don't see them or hear from them. You do hear about the people who are competitive and they have an issue with the game, right? And that can sometimes create an illusion that everyone's like that, but it's not. I don't think that's the case.
Okay. I actually think it's quite a bigger amount of people that feel that way, but a smaller amount of people that actually voice it, but they are loud. I agree there. But I think a lot of more people, they feel that way, and as soon as they get that feeling, they will just turn their backs. They will not voice their opinion, they will just leave. And
Do you think it's most? Do you think it's most players?
not
What
most,
percentage would you say?
I would say about 40%. And there's actually an interesting psychological experiment about it, where like the scientists got random people together at like an equal skill level, and then they gave one group like a puzzle and told them that the other group was able to solve it on average in 3 minutes. And then the second group, they also got a puzzle, and they were told that the other group was able to get that done in 6 minutes. And just that information made people that solved it in like 4 or 5 minutes in the other group feel like so much better about themselves, right? Just because they have that information as like a link.
Yeah,
And
I
they have
get
been
I get
able
that.
to replicate that like multiple times and always landed at like a 40% value of people that actually did not perform well in the task, no? compared themselves to other people and then felt good about themselves, because it's not about what they're able to do, because only how good is their like puzzling or whatever, compared to the puzzlings of the other people. And I think people like to compare each other a lot. This is also why
Yeah,
social.
of course, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with that. But there's varying degrees of that, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, of course, people feel good and feel a sense of achievement and feel pride when they've achieved something, faster than the next person or before the next person, right? That is, I think that's normal human nature thing. But what I'm talking about, I guess, is people who are ultra competitive, right? Who everything about the game is all about being the best, getting to the top of that leaderboard rank ASAP. It's those people that I guess, saying is the 10%. But most players, I would agree with you, have that sense of they want to have a sense of achievement and a sense of success of winning, right? And that is a good feeling to have. That is a feeling of pride and achievement. I think most players have that. But I think most players, as long as there's a level playing field and there's an equal opportunity for everyone to succeed in the game, I think most players aren't racing. I think most players aren't racing to be number one, right? I think that's the 10% that I'm talking about. Everyone else wants to get to the best, wants to achieve that achievement, but they're okay with getting there at their own pace, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it's very difficult, this, right? Because it varies from person to person. Everyone has a different values, different thing that motivates them, different thing that brings them enjoyment, right? So it's very hard to have a blanket judgment on it. But yeah, I think we agree more than we disagree on this one, to be honest. Maybe the ratios we're a bit not perfectly aligned on, but I think in general we have the same view on it.
Yeah, I think like your ratio for me makes sense when I look at the population that is playing the game, but not if I look at the population that could be playing the game. Because that amount that I think is like on top of that 10% are the people that are just leaving and never saying a word. That they just feel like, oh, it's not worth it, and they're gone. Never look back.
Hmm.
And this is also like why I think that the peaks of MMO releases always drop so fast afterwards.
Yeah, yeah,
The reason.
yeah. I think it's gonna be a tough one for MMO developers to keep all different types of player bases happy, right? I think they try. NC and other companies, they try and make sure the game caters for all types of players. It's difficult, right? If that pendulum swings too far one way, you piss off the other player base, right? So yeah, I don't envy them trying to get it right, to be fair.
Yeah, it's difficult, and it's also
Hmm.
like changes now that you cannot like implement, test, and then instantly switch again and stuff like this. No, you have
No,
to
exactly, because
make a commitment to it.
yeah, because if you've lost players, you've lost them, right? It's very hard to get them back. So yeah, you don't get that opportunity to test. Although in some previous MMOs, I've seen where they've created, public test servers where they've been able to somehow test some progression systems to a certain degree, but that's a lot of work, a lot of investment, and I don't think NC are going to be doing a lot of public test servers, but that's one way they can do it.
I think it depends on how big the community will get. Because
Yeah,
if you
yeah, yeah.
get a community, then you also have enough population on a test server to even make it worth it. No, if you have a
Yeah,
small community,
exactly. Yeah.
it will not help you at all.
Yeah, you need a big enough sample base for the test to be valid. So yeah, for sure.
So one thing that I have like in my comments, mostly on TikTok, the most is like people saying, "Oh, the game is like completely mobile. It's not a PC MMORPG." So how
Yeah.
did the game feel for you, like first time when you started dropping into it? Did you feel like you had your phone in your hand, or did you feel like you're playing an MMO on PC?
I've seen a lot of this noise as well, and I'm laughing because yeah, when I jumped into Ion 2 and I jumped on the Taiwan server, I didn't even know that it was on mobile at the time, and when I played it, it just felt like a normal PC-based MMORPG. I found out afterwards that, oh, actually, it's on mobile as well, and a lot of people are annoyed about this, that, and the other. But when I first played the game, you need to remember, Pony, that I played Ion 1, and Ion 1 was only on PC, right? So I knew Ion as a PC MMO. It was always a PC MMO. So when they announced Ion 2, of course I assumed, well, it's obviously another PC MMO, just like Ion 1. So I went into the game with that mindset, and it played great, and it felt like a normal PC-based MMO. And then I found out about the mobile version of the game, and the fact that people are seeing some of the features within the PC version that you obviously would find in a mobile game, and being annoyed by that and saying, oh, these are mobile elements, like, auto pathing, for example, or macros, these types of things. Oh, why is this in the game? But the reality is that auto pathing is in a lot of MMOs. Macros are in a lot of MMOs. A lot of the stuff that people are getting annoyed about and saying, oh, this is all mobile slop, those features are in lots of PC MMOs. They're in Final Fantasy 14. They're in Black Desert Online. They're in World of Warcraft. They're in lots of MMOs that
have
aren't.
been, and they
So
have
go.
been the way before a smartphone was able to run an MMO.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly. So
oops.
honestly, Pony, I don't get all the uproar about the game being a mobile game, because I don't see that even before because they've made a lot of changes recently, haven't they? With, like, for example, with the user interface settings, that you can now customize it a lot more. Um, they've made a lot of improvements, but even before that, it felt mostly like a PC MMO. So I never really saw it as a big problem, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I also don't think that it was only developed with mobile in mind, what some people are saying.
It
Like,
doesn't look like it.
it
It
doesn't
doesn't
look
look like a.
like I have an UI editor where I can change basically everything to my needs to have like a good display, like get my skills close so I see the cooldowns without having to look down, stuff like this. No, like it's fine. And like where was that? Like I was reading a news article where one of their higher ups announced that they're also really want to, not like for the global release, but as like a secondary release, they want to release on console rather than on mobile.
Yeah.
And I think with their approach to how they set up the skills, so making it that they're overlapping, so you can have multiple skills with different cooldowns on one button, it looks a lot like also optimized for console rather than only saying this is like mobile thing. And
Yeah.
the console MMO community, I think is the only MMO community that's rising, to my knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that as well. It's really encouraging to see, because of the state that MMOs have been in the last 10, 15 years. To see how Ion 2 has been growing over in Korea and Taiwan has been really promising and really exciting, because we need this. We need this, right? Another big MMO with a big company behind it, like NC. That's going to really work, and going to, you know, help revive the MMORPG genre a bit. And obviously, other MMOs have been announced. Other big AAA MMOs have now also been announced. So I'm hoping this is Ion 2 kind of started the wave of bringing MMOs back into the mainstream. And you need to modernize to keep the current modern day player, and society said this as well. You have to modernize the game. You can't keep it the same as it was in the year 2000. I know society went on a lot about this, but I do kind of agree with him that to attract the current day player base, you talked about the fact that people just don't have a lot of time or patience anymore. You need a lot of conveniences in the game, like auto pathing, like macros, like all this stuff, to keep people enjoying the game and being able to play it for an hour here, an hour there. And of course, for console players, a lot of systems and features will need to be tailored to work on the console, and that's a good thing, because we have more console players playing the game, then you have a bigger player base. So that's good for the game in the long run. So yeah, I'm more of an advocate for change, and I'm not afraid of change. Like games do need to evolve with the times, to keep them relevant, keep them fun, and keep the current generation of players playing the game. So yeah, I'm quietly optimistic from what I'm seeing from Ion 2 and other MMOs. I'm quietly optimistic that we might be seeing a turn for the better, but we'll see. We'll see.
Interesting take. Um, I was just looking up the wishlist editions that have popped in so far. It's 435,000 wish lists at the moment. for the game. The
Right.
translation rate average for free-to-play MMOs on Steam from wishlist to peak at the start is about 48.5%.
Right.
But we still have 2 months left, most likely, no? Until the game is releasing. So what do you think is be like a realistic peak at the start?
Yeah, so normally, for what I remember, normally after an MMO launches, historically, you would see like historically you'd see like a 60 to 70% drop off within 30 days of the game. But a lot of that obviously depends on a lot of factors, right? I think there's four key things that will determine whether Aion 2 continues to grow, retain its player base, and be successful after launch. And I think those four things are number one, the monetization model, obviously. If a lot of people hate it, they'll stop playing the game. If they get that right, that's important. The second one is player engagement. So NC need to communicate with their player base, whether that's through, live letters, updates, feedback forums, that sort of thing. They need to keep us informed on what they're working on, what they're developing, that they're listening to feedback. So I think player engagement is the second critical point. The third one is the frequency of content and updates, right? They need to keep players busy with stuff to do in the game. So once it's launched, there needs to be a roadmap of frequent and regular new content and updates to the game to keep it alive. And that kind of leads on to my final point, which is the end game experience. So people, when they get to the end of the game, they need to not feel like the game is finished. Like I said earlier, it needs to almost be like when you get to the end and when you get to maximum level, that's when the game starts. So there needs to be plenty of progression and stuff to do at end game to keep people playing it for months and months afterwards, right? And so yeah, I think if they nail those four elements: monetization, player engagement, frequency of content, and end game experience, the game will keep growing and it will succeed and it will thrive. Usually, when games die after a few months, it's because they've failed on one or two of those 4 points, from my past experience, anyway. So I know that's a bit of a big picture answer, but that's kind of how I feel. And so far, Ion 2 is doing a lot of the right things, right? Monetization, they've listened to feedback, they've made changes already, great. Player engagement, they're starting to communicate more with us now. I think we need a lot more of that, but they're starting to communicate with us more, which is good. And from the content, what we've seen in Korea and Taiwan, I think it's been quite impressive how quickly they've been bringing out new content. The last patch was massive, right? A new class, a new zones in the world, etc., etc. So content's been good, the frequency. End game experience, I'm not there yet, so I don't have first-hand experience on what it's like at endgame in Ion 2, but I think those are the four things they need to get right. And so far, it looks like they're doing most of it right. So yeah, quietly optimistic.
So if I would judge those four things, I would say monetization is as long as a big minus, as long as they have the currency exchanges as there. If the currency exchange would be gone, I think the people would accept it in the West. When it comes to the, wait, what was the second point again?
Player engagement, feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the live streams that they're doing and the weekly patches almost and bug fixes and stuff like this, I think they're doing a pretty good job. I recently
Yeah.
watched Ion 2 Japan's live stream, and they also seem like quite engaging with the community. And then point three was
Frequency of content and updates, like new content, new updates.
on point three, the frequency of content. We even have like a way better opportunity than Korea and Taiwan had. Because if you look at the data, for the first 3 months, Ion 2 didn't even peak. So they had lots of issues and they didn't get their peak player base at the start of the game. They actually got their peak player after 3 months of the game, after they fixed lots of certain
Yeah.
things. And now they have already so much content prepared that which might have in Korea like taken a lot of developing time and they would just not be able to publish content faster in case the people are progressing too fast. Now they have all the content ready, and at least I would say for the first year, point number three they should have nailed because they have content, they can look at the data and publish it properly. No? So I
Yeah.
think at that point they should have 100%.
Yeah, agreed. It looks really promising. The fact that we're always going to be slightly behind Korea and Taiwan means that we know we've got like a roadmap of content coming. But they need to continue to produce that content even over in Korea and Taiwan, right? So it can come our way. The final point, which I have the least knowledge about, so I'm actually really curious to hear from you, Pony, is about what the endgame experience is like, not just for PvP, but for PvE players. Like, what are the progression systems? Is there enough there to keep people playing and having fun while they're waiting for the next big patch or the next, bit of content?
So for me, it's hard to like see what like a PvE only player is doing because I love PvP. But I think if I would only play PvE, I would not spend more than like 2 to 3 months in the game, I would say. Like for me, that would be too boring because lots of end game content is similar. Like if you're running an expedition dungeon or a transcendence dungeon, it's a difference in drop, but not a difference in the activity that you're doing. So
Yeah,
I think they have enough things that they could combine, but lots of the tasks are repetitive. I
yeah,
for myself, the motivation to do that is PvP. So if I'm
yeah,
doing something repetitive and I know it will help me in PvP to get that gear, that or like to get stronger, get keener, so I can upgrade my PvP gear or whatever, that gives it for me a purpose. If I would be PvE only, I think I would not have that purpose. But I can also not judge how important the PvE leaderboards are to people. Like if I would look like at a PvE leaderboard, I just do not give a fuck. Like if someone cleared that dungeon 3 seconds later, good job. Like I'm thinking like, well, in terms of efficiency, that is irrelevant. Yeah. So I'm not
yeah.
looking at it in terms of an achievement, but when it comes to like a PvP ranking, like I think there for me it's like a term of accomplishment, like when you see yourself rising in the ranking.
Yeah, yeah. So, so I'm going to give you a perspective from a hardcore PvE player, right? Who's played a lot of MMOs at endgame. So I think they need to nail both for this game to be big and successful in the West. They need to nail the PvP and the PvE. They can't just say, "Oh, it's fine. Everyone will do PvP and they'll be happy." Because I'm telling you now, they'll be alienating like at least 50% of their player base. So they definitely need to make sure that there is enough PvE content to keep players who aren't, you know, purely PvP players engaged in the game. Now, it's not necessarily about leaderboards and rankings and clearing content. It can be about the gear progression journey. So what a lot of MMOs do successfully is that they put, dungeons and raids in the game, and you have to run those repeatedly to get all of your gear pieces, right? So you can progress your gear and your item score gradually over time by repeating dungeons, raids, and other PvE content. But that only works if you have that gear progression system in there where either you're collecting tokens and you spend those tokens on a gear piece, or you're upgrading your gear piece with the currency that you get from the dungeons, or the gear pieces are rare drops in the dungeons. You need to run them many times to get your gear piece. Maybe you need to get a gear piece with specific stats on them. So you've got to run it many, many times so you can get your piece that has the right stats, right? So there's lots of different ways they can do it, but there's got to be that journey that, every day I log in, I do this dungeon, I do that raid, and I'm gradually progressing my gear until eventually I've got the best, PvE gear set that you can get in the game. And by the time I reach that point, they've released the next gear set with the
Yeah,
next bunch of dungeons and raids, right? So you've always got that climb.
I think if dungeon loot would be best in slot, everything that you said is supplying. But best in slot is crafting. So you how to say it, you do not have that feeling that you have in other games where you're dropping an item that has like a 1% drop chance. You've grinded it so much times and you have like, oh yes, fuck yeah, I dropped it. You're dropping like a heroic and then you start calculating, oh, how many transfer stones is that? You know what I mean?
But
Like the,
where do you get the crafting materials from? If the best in slot gear is from crafting,
yeah, you get it in
where's the
dungeon. Then you need like
so well, there's
then
your answer then.
but you need like 20 items of it. Like okay, every run I will drop one of those. Like it's like you fill a progression bar, but you do not have that excitement of finally dropping what you're looking for. You only fill a
Yeah,
progression bar for the whole period of grinding.
but if you finally craft that piece of armor that's taken you 3 weeks to get enough materials, you've been doing the dungeons every day, you finally got enough material, and you craft the item and you've got it. That's a good sense of achievement as well, right? Because you feel, yeah, those last 3 or 4 weeks were worth it. I've just made my chest piece. Now let's move on to my legs next. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it
I
sounds like they do have some kind of gear progression system that is linked to PvE. Even if you're not getting the gear directly from the dungeon, from what you're saying, it sounds like it is still linked to the. You need to run the PvE to get the materials, right?
Yeah, but I think in crafting, your dopamine bar is not like about getting the item. It's about the whole time hoping that that failure bar is not going up, and the last 2 months that you farmed all the materials are
Yeah,
lost failure crafting. And they
RN
are,
RNG RNGs.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we
I'm
call it.
a big fan of that crafting RNG, honestly. And
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
like they did add now versions where you can 100% get like an item, yeah? But it's let's say way more costly like this. And yeah, I don't know.
Mm. In other games, what they've done to make that less painful is they've made it so every time you fail to craft something, it increases your success rate for your next attempt. So eventually you'll definitely get it. Because every time you fail, you've got a much greater chance next time. And so it's just a matter of time before you do eventually get the piece. So I hope that they can introduce something like that, because if it's pure RNG and one person can spend 12 months trying to craft the item and the other person spends 1 month and they manage to do it successfully, that will piss off a lot of players. So because it's then not kind of respecting your time in the game. So hopefully they'll make some kind of what do they call it? A failure catch
Like
up system. Yeah.
like a 100% success chance after that many fails, stuff like that. For
Exactly. Yeah. I think they need to do something like that. Otherwise, Western players, yeah, they're not
well,
going to be happy if it's pure RNG.
the enhancement system is already like this. So every fail will increase your success chance for the next try. So
That's
it's
good. Yeah.
we have it inside, but not for what we just talked about.
Yeah.
And in the crafting, mm, how to explain that? Like the chances is also determined by your crafting level. So that means you cannot
Yes.
anything valuable before you have it fully leveled. This is important. And yeah, you should probably take the safe round. Like
It's
risk it is so like if it feels so bad if you don't get it.
Yeah, I know. Ion 1 was very similar. The best gear in the game also had to be crafted, and I remember people failing and because of RNG and just being really mad about it. But it is interesting that they've stuck with this approach of if you're doing PvE, you have to craft. Everyone has to craft because in other MMOs, crafting is always like an optional thing. You can craft if you want to, and yes, you can get gear through crafting, but you can also get the best gear just from doing the dungeons and the raids and things, right? It's interesting that in Ion they're sticking with this thing of no, if you're a PvE player, you're gonna have to craft if you want the best gear. So I don't know how that's gonna sit with players that crafting is basically a necessity. I don't mind because I enjoy crafting, but yeah, it's interesting.
I enjoy the lower level crafting, I think is good. Where you collect like a
Yeah.
little bit of resources and you craft something useful. I think the high end crafting is not that fun in Ion 2. Like once you get to do it, you will see how much of your playtime that will consume. And I'm not talking about collecting the gathering materials. Like the materials are so worth nothing that gathering them yourself is like a waste of time. Like you can go into the auction house and pay like 100,000 kina, or you do it for 10 hours yourself. Like there's no relation anymore to it, to the crafting materials, and the animations are so long. Like just getting something to max level, you will be stuck for hours and hours and hours in the animation. So what I would be doing, I would play the game, I'm done, I have my materials, and then stand there, and my computer would be running for another 30 minutes to finish crafting for experience to get like to max level so I can craft like my high-end weapon. And I
Yeah.
think that system is, I don't know, I think it's like complete bullshit. Like, why should that take so long in animations? And it's not even cool. It's the same animation over and over and over, repetitive. I don't know.
Yeah. They might improve that with some quality of life changes. I've seen that in other MMOs where at the beginning it's a very slow process in terms of animations, and then they've implemented ways that you can kind of fast track it and not have to sit there watching the animations. So they might improve that. I think Western players are not as patient as Eastern players, so they'll probably get a lot of feedback on that. But I know you said that you can buy the crafting materials, but I'm assuming like to make the money to buy the crafting materials, you still need to run PvE content, right? Because you're not getting money from anywhere, from nowhere, right? If you're not doing PvP, what I mean is
Like,
then you've got to,
I would say high-end crafting is
yeah.
most limited to people that use the currency exchange. So if you're like a sub-only player, to get your weapon, in case you would get it on the first try, that will take like 2 months, 3 months, but like not like chilling, like 3 months of grinding. So
Mhm.
for most people that will be playing the game, the crafting will not even matter. Like they will never get the end game crafting items at all. So I think for them, the boss items will be like the go-to way. And they
I
have
see.
recently added a potential upgrade system where the crafting stuff gives 5% PvE. You can upgrade your dungeon drop with like potential stones to get at least 2.5% PvE.
Mm.
So the gap
So,
between
okay.
is not that big anymore, but I would say it's still mostly limited for the people with a bigger budget.
So you're saying that you can still get some gear then from the dungeons. It's just not as good as the crafting end game gear. And
It has
if that's the case, that's not bad then, because you start off by just doing the dungeons. You start off by just trying to get that dungeon gear, right? And then you can be slowly working towards your crafting gear at the side, right? So at least there is that. I talked about a ladder earlier. Like your first step of the ladder is that dungeon gear, right? The second step of the ladder is that crafted gear. So there is some progression system there. So yeah, we shall see.
And we do have two questions. Like Horsepower is asking, how will Elementalist perform in PvP? Will
I'm
that
gonna
be
let
the-
you answer that, Pony. You're the PvP guy. I'll let you answer that.
I think Elementalist has a lot of damage. It has the best burst ability in the game currently, where you stack like your 4 elements and then you do that. I don't know what it's called, elemental fusion or whatever, but it's like also the skill that has the highest record at the moment for single target damage. And in terms of like a 1v1 situation where you're able to keep your distance, it will perform really well. In mass PvP, it performs really well. But as soon as you get caught, you do not have to sustain to like defend off and engage. So you can be quite squishy. If you don't know how to position yourself properly, you will have a lot of struggle if you're playing Elementalist in PvP.
Is that the same for Sorcerer? Because that's the other caster, obviously.
I would say Sorcerer has more defensive mechanisms. They
Right,
have like
right.
hibernation where they can go into like undetachable mode. They have more CC in their kit in terms of being able to kite. And if you're building a bunch of what's it called, status effect chance, then you're pretty good there. And not too many people in the early game will be able to invest into status effect resistance. So I think
Hmm.
Sorcerer is in a better spot in terms of PvP than Elementalist.
Gotcha.
PvE crafted gear has 5 substats slots as well. Yeah, it does have 5 substats, but the heroic gear from the dungeons also has 5. So that's not the difference. But what made people go for like the 5 substats weapons especially was the comparison to PvP gear. So if you would be grinding PvP and you upgrade your gear through the tiers, the time that you're getting to like an orange weapon, you are farming for 6 months plus. Like the amount of medals that you need to get that is insane. And to bridge that gap, you will be using a PvE weapon crafted with 5 slots as your PvP weapon until you finally get your orange PvP weapon. And that's why you saw many people mentioning the stats. But for PvE, you can still use like the other um, orange weapons and have the 5 stats as well.
I will certainly still be doing PvP. I plan on doing both PvE and PvP. I'm usually more of a PvE player, but as you said, Aion, the PvP is like some of the best MMO PvP that you can find. And I remember we had loads of fun in Aion 1. So we'll certainly be doing PvP, even if we are a bunch of casuals. We'll be doing it in our own casual way. So,
I'm already curious to join it, especially because I'm healer and I've not played healer in mass PvP or like in like bigger PvPs in a long time, at least for 10 years. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully to take lots of damage to have something to do.
well, we'll have lots of Legion PvP events, so I'm sure we'll see you there.
Now I think we should touch up on like the most interesting topic that I think is currently going on. Not like if the founder packs have value or whatever. It's like which server should you join, depending on your budget, your time. No? Should you be going on the early access servers or should you be going onto the launch server? What is your opinion on it? Like what type of player should choose which kind of server?
So it's okay. I'm going to try and answer this in as concise a way as I can. So there will be players who, the ultra competitive players, right, who want to climb the leaderboard rankings quickly, get to the end game quickly. You know, those people are really after the achievement of being the first, and they will want to get into early access, obviously, to be able to get ahead of the game in that sense. You know, those ultra competitive players that I was talking about. But having said that, there are also a large proportion of casual players like myself and like many people in my legion who love the idea of an early access period because we just get to play the game earlier, right? So from a pure hype excitement, we want to play the game. We've been waiting months and months and months to play the game. To get to play it 5 whole days extra early, that is a fun and attractive idea. Book time off work and get to play the game during the early access. So I don't think early access is only for this type of player or that type of player. I do think it comes down to the individual and what's important to them. I will be doing early access, but I'm not a hardcore player. I'm not a PvP player. I'm not a competitive player, but I will be doing early access and I'm excited about it. And so are a lot of my friends who are also casual players. So I do think is different people will have different reasons for wanting to do early access, and there's obviously a lot of players who feel strongly against early access and feel like, you know, they shouldn't be that big a head start and everyone should be joining at the same time, you know, level playing field and all of that. So I can empathize a bit for the people who feel that way as well. And I say, you know, each person's got to make the decision that's right for them at the end of the day. I'm not going to say one person's right and the other's wrong, because it's a personal decision and it's what's important to you. So I know it's a bit of a politician's answer there, Pony, but that's kind of how I feel about it. You know, everyone has a different opinion on it. I'm personally quite excited about it. So
I would like to defer because you said two things, like someone that is competitive and someone that just want to be rank one. Like I would like to split those people because like someone that is competitive, they will most likely go on early access server that's like heavy PvP style because they want
yeah,
to have challenges of competing versus the best players, right? Someone
yeah,
that only wants to be rank one and have the least amount of competition just to have that status or whatever, because it makes them feel good, they would most likely play on early access, get the experience, start fresh again on launch server where they have less competition and their money is giving them higher value. And then once the server transfers is coming, they're using their early access server character and just transfer it on the other server, and then they instantly have their alt ready.
Yeah, that makes sense. And on that point, so my Legion or our Legion, we've decided to create the Legion on an early access server, and I'll tell you what our thinking was behind it, because obviously we want to try and keep all of our players happy. So we thought about it of, if we were to launch, create our Legion on the launch server, then all of the players in our Legion who did get early access, created their characters in early access, are basically stuck, right? They either have to create a brand new character when the game launches on our server, or they have to wait until server transfers, and we don't know how long that's going to take. So we decided to create our Legion on an early access server, because we know that early access servers will be open and available to all players. So whether you started playing the game at launch, or whether you got a founders pack, those early access servers are going to be open to everyone, right? They are going to get rammed full. I think we know that all the servers are going to get rammed at launch. So that's going to be a challenge, regardless of whether you do early access or not. But yeah, we've decided to go with an early access server because we think it's the most inclusive way of doing it. Because it just means that we're not going to have a bunch of our players stuck and locked on an early access server. They can't join us because we've decided to go on a full launch server. So that was our thinking behind it, was more from an what's the most inclusive way of doing it.
Yeah, also if the people are not going like early access, do not want to spend money on the game, they should also probably not care too much about the rankings. And if they are like 5 days
Yeah,
behind, then
true.
I would say it's not too much a big deal for them. And also 5 days still means that you can get the first weeklies in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So the gap between the players will not be too massive, as long as on the launch day in those 2 days you're bumping those weeklies through. Then the gap
yeah.
will not be too big as well.
Yeah. On that point, right? Because a lot of people are saying that this 5 day early access is basically another pay to win. That's what people are saying, right? They're saying you're making it unfair because you're giving people a 5 day head start, which is way too much. And that's going to make the level playing field completely unfair. And I don't really buy into that, because I think 5 days, in the grand scheme of things, when you're going to be playing this game for months and years, I don't think 5 days actually is going to make that huge a difference in terms of you're not you know, in a month or two's time, everyone's going to have caught up. Everyone's going to be at a similar point, right? So it's going to depend on how many hours you're playing per day, right? It's not going to be, did you do early access or not 6 months ago? Nobody's going to be asking that, right? It's going to be more about how many hours are you putting in every day, right? So I don't think 5 days actually, in the grand scheme of things, is going to give people that big an advantage in the long term. Is my feeling anyway.
Yeah. Also, like in terms of server merging, right? They did not give it to like a time, right? They will merge it when the
Yeah,
people are there. And at some point, the content is there, the people are slowly getting to the cap, right? And there's nothing to progress until they release the next stuff, and this is where the other players are catching up.
yeah,
And this is also their strategy of balancing the Korean and Taiwanese version and the global version, to try to slowly get them to catch up so they are running on the same version, because that is their goal there.
yeah. Exactly that. Yeah, everyone's going to get to the same point eventually. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Um, in terms of early access, do you think that the early access servers will be better in terms of not having so many bots at the start compared to the launch servers?
Bots, do you say?
Bots, yeah.
Um, I I think we're going to see bots either way. I think we'll see them in early access servers. We'll see them on launch
Or,
servers, because
I mean,
the early,
like I mean the person
sorry.
like, do you think bots will buy like the early access to start
Oh, I
grinding
see
them
what you mean.
days, or will they start creating them 5 days later just and then start grinding? Because like in my mind,
Yeah.
I feel like when you're buying the early access, maybe you're just buying 5 days of peace from bots. And that's the value that you're
Yeah,
getting.
possibly. I think those bots are gonna find their way onto those early access servers after the 5 days is over, right? So I think the bots are
100%.
coming. The bots are coming one way or the other, but you're right. We might see fewer bots in those first 5 days, if any. But I honestly, I almost see those 5 days as a bit of a final beta test, because there's going to be server stability issues. There's going to be uh, server capacity issues, and I think I always see these early access periods as a bit of a testing bed, so that NC can, make final tweaks, make adjustments ahead of the actual launch. So, there'll be other problems outside of bots, I think. So if anyone is doing early access, just basically, I think you need to go into it preparing to be a beta tester effectively, even though the game is fully completed. It's going to be the first time they're running the games on their global servers, right? So they don't know they don't really have an idea of how it's all going to play out until everyone starts queuing up and logging in.
Now, like there's so many things that I just want to touch up on there. Let's finish the early access and then let's go back to the beta topic. So
Sure.
what we didn't talk about the early access yet is the dungeons. We said like there's different early access and launch servers, right? And what's making them unique is the local market. But the dungeon matchmaking is merged on day one. What's your take on that? That basically on day one in the dungeons, once they are 45, they can match into the same queue and the same dungeon with someone that has 5 days ahead at that point.
Yeah, I know this is a controversial topic for a lot of people. I'm not as worried about it. I think it's a good feature to have, that you can play with other players on different servers. From what I understand, it's going to go across early access and full launch servers as well. And so you will have players that have had technically have had a 5 day head start in terms of gear progression and stuff. But I don't think it's going to be as big an issue as people think it's going to be. I think people are envisioning worst case scenario where you're going to have players that are massively overgeared and players that are massively undergeared, and that's going to cause all sorts of arguments and fights. I don't think it's going to be that much drama, if I'm honest with you. And I don't think that it's going to take very long for everyone to balance out anyway. So even if there is an issue, it's going to be quite a temporary one. But I'm not as worried about that as some people are about the discrepancy in gear item levels between those players. I don't think it's going to be that major an issue personally.
Sounds like
Maybe I'll be wrong.
you didn't play Throne and Liberty global release, right?
I did actually Throne and
Oh,
Liberty. Yeah.
oh,
Say again.
on the global release, like at the start, right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
And you did not have like complete flames in every dungeon because someone didn't know the mechanic. It was not even about like more damage or whatever. Just like whenever a group would wipe and someone didn't know the mechanic, and the early access people would fucking freak out.
But that happens. That happens in every MMO, even when there isn't a split between early access and full launch. People, toxic people are going to flame if somebody doesn't know a mechanic. Say, why didn't you watch a guide before you came in the dungeon? Why are you wasting our time? That stuff happens anyway. So when I see that sort of thing happen, like, I just think, you know what, there are some players out there who are going to be impatient and be annoying and get frustrated if another player doesn't know the mechanics of a dungeon. But I don't think that's exclusive to this early day access issue. I think that happens in pretty much all the MMOs that I've played. And the good news is, Pony, I'll be doing most dungeons with my fellow guildmates who don't do that. So yeah, I'm not overly worried about that.
Like, I'm also not worried about it because I know that we're going to get up some good statics for it. But
Yeah,
like you just said, it's like same as other games. Like when I was playing Throne of Liberty global release, it felt like 10 times worse as any experience I ever had like this at the start. And I
yeah,
was not even one of the people that didn't know the mechanics because I played beforehand, I played early access or whatever. But like
yeah.
I felt bad for all the people that got like giga flamed and they always tried to kick them or like tried to lock them out of the dungeon so they cannot do damage on the boss and get loot and stuff like this.
But
So
but
like
but, but let me ask but but let me ask you this, Pony. What about all the players who are only going to start playing Ion 2 in let's say January next year or February next year, and they start playing the game, right? And then they get to those dungeons for the first time. Are they going to get flamed for not knowing the mechanics already? Just what I'm saying. So that phenomenon of you're going to have new players who it's their first time in a dungeon and they don't know the mechanics. You're going to That's going to happen any time in the year, in any month, right? And those players who are flaming them, saying, "Why don't you know the mechanics? Why don't you know this?" Those are toxic players, and they exist all year round. They don't only exist during this early access full launch period. Those sorts of players who are going to get annoyed and frustrated and complain that somebody doesn't know the mechanics, they're doing that even in 6 months' time from now. They'll be doing it. They'll be doing it in 9 months' time from now. So I say to those sorts of players, block them, don't play with them, try and avoid them. Obviously, if you can play with friends or guildmates, that's always going to be a more pleasant experience. But hopefully, the majority of players will be respectful, friendly, helpful people, right? But you're going to come across those people. You're going to come across them in every MMO, unfortunately. But yeah, I try and play with my guildmates and my friends as much as possible, and statics, as you say.
I'm not too concerned about it later on, because it will not impact as many players. When you're at the start, where like you want to advertise your game to that many people, and the only thing that you're saying is like people flaming the whole time, the large peak that you're getting will drop way faster to a way lower point than when you like try to manage certain things. So I think if they would like have separated the dungeon matchmaking and put it together at the same time where they are merging the markets, it would have been like an overall more stable experience with less toxicity.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe I'm just cynical. I just expect to find people like that being toxic like that all year round, and not just during this period. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's a subset of the MMO player base that you're gonna meet and interact with, because everyone's going to be doing a dungeon for the first time at some point, right? Everyone has a first time, and when it is their first time, they're not going to know the mechanics unless they've done their homework and stuff. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping it's not going to be as extreme as that, but we will see.
I also hope it goes smooth, but I don't.
You have fear.
I don't have like lots of faith in it in like going smooth and not toxic. But
Yeah,
hope that I am wrong there. And
I
maybe
think. Yeah.
think the market. No, we just said, or I just said that they are merging the market. Um,
Yes.
Before you're having like your server own market until you go into the world
Yeah.
market. The world market has
Yeah.
20% tax and the server one has 10% tax. So how important is it to like pick like a server that is doing you know how to say that? Like how important do you think it is to be on like a server that is like completely packed to a server that is maybe like a launch server that will not get full in terms of the impact on the market prices?
Yeah, because my understanding is that at launch, the markets are still going to be restricted to servers, right? We're not going to have cross-server marketplaces yet. That's not going to happen at launch. That's going to be brought in later, isn't it?
No, I mean like
That's my understanding.
the time frame before they bring in the cross server market, where it's only your server, and
Yeah,
if you're on an early access server, they will be packed at the start. Then then you have the launch servers, they will open multiple and they maybe don't get packed like right away. Now like the first ones that they open they will, but then later on they will not be too packed. And then you have maybe like a half a server compared to the people that
yeah.
crowd materials on the early access server, which is like completely packed.
Yeah. I think that phenomenon does happen currently in other MMOs. Firstly, I'll tell you now, all the servers are going to get packed at launch, both at early access and at full launch. All those servers are getting packed. I can tell you that now, 100%. And they'll be packed for quite a while, I imagine, a couple of months at least, before they start before players start leaving, and then maybe they look at server merges. I think it's very hard to predict like which servers are going to stay populated and which ones are going to drop off over time. I think it's impossible to predict where that's going to happen. So I don't think you can plan for that necessarily. I don't think it matters whether you pick early access or full launch in this regard, because I think all of those servers are going to get packed at the beginning, and they will be packed for at least a month or two, and then some of those servers might start dropping off in population, and at that point you'll see the market obviously shifting. But I don't think you can predict that very. How could you confidently predict? We don't even have the server lists yet.
Let me ask differently. Like I didn't mean
Yeah,
like in terms of like picking the correct server. I mean like, do you think
right.
the prices will be higher on early access servers or on the launch server before the world
I
server?
think yeah. I I think as typically happens with MMO launches, the prices will be very high at the beginning when those servers go live, and that's both the early access and the full launch. So if I put it in like a chronological order, day one of early access, and for that first 5 days, the prices are going to skyrocket because everyone is racing. All those competitive players are racing to progress as fast as possible, and then when the full launch happens, prices are going to skyrocket at the beginning on those servers, and then prices will gradually drop down as the weeks progress on both of those servers, right? The early access servers will be slightly ahead, obviously by 5 days. But I think, once you get to month one, month two, actually it doesn't become very noticeable. But I think that's what will happen. So yes, I think there will be massive. The prices are going to be insane to begin with, right? Because everyone's trying to get their hands on the materials and the items that they need, but that will die off as it always does with MMOs. As the player base grows, more and more players are filling up the marketplace, and there is less competition, and all those, let's call them whales, have already reached where they wanted to reach, so the demand isn't as high anymore. Prices will stabilize, but yeah, it's going to be nuts for the first few days. I think it always is with new MMO launches, to be honest.
So what you're saying is you think that the high prices will be on early access and on launch server, and there will be no difference, like they will be equally high. Or do you think one of them will be
For the
high?
first
Like,
So what I'm saying is for those initial few days, maybe 2 weeks, yes, the prices will be excessively high because there'll be a high demand, but not a high supply. There'll be high demand but low supply. So yeah, the prices will be high. I'm not saying that they'll be in sync because obviously early access is 5 days earlier, but they'll follow the same pattern, is what I'm saying. So, for example, day two on the full launch server will look similar or same as day two on the early access server was in terms of prices,
so you
if that
think
makes sense.
like on an early access server, we have more people that spend money, right? That are willing to spend.
Hmm.
Like all the free-to-play players will mostly go onto the launch servers. So do you not think like that the willingness of early access people to spend more money and using the currency exchange more frequently than maybe on a launch server would also drive the prices up higher?
I don't think hugely, and I'll tell you why. It's because each of the servers' total capacity of total amount of players are going to be similar, right? So you'll have the same or similar volume of players on each of the servers, whether you're early access or full launch. And I hear what you're saying about, well, early access people have paid money for the early access, so surely they're going to be bigger spenders. I don't necessarily think that will translate in game, because once you're in game, everyone wants to progress, right? Whether you're an early access player or not, everyone has the same desire to progress their character. To your point earlier about the experiment they did, right? You want to succeed, you want to progress. So I think the appetite, the desire to get the materials, get the items will be similar between players. And I don't think early access people are just going to be big spenders in games as well as I don't think the two are necessarily linked that strictly. There might be an element of that, but no, I think all players are going to have the same desire and motivation to progress, and that will impact the markets similarly across the servers. That's what I think anyway. I might be wrong.
Okay, an interesting perspective. Because in Current Liberty, that's like the only comparison that I can make where I experienced that early access server split. The prices on the early access servers for like the top end stuff was way higher than it was on the launch servers. And then what people started doing is using the server transfers to go to a server to pick up something cheap and then return later.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah, that
the access to a launch server.
Yeah, that happens. That happens a lot currently in FF14, where you can travel to different servers freely, free of charge at any time, and people will jump from server to server just to find the cheapest prices as market prices change. So yeah, I mean that may happen, but again, we're in kind of crystal ball territory here, so I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to. There may be an element of that, but hopefully it won't be as extreme as what you described in Throne and Liberty, but we'll see.
We got an addition from Relic. He's talking about the third-party abuse of tools for like auto-attacking skills, right mouse button, left mouse button. I think, Relic, that you're referring to weaving, and it's not third-party anymore. Like we did touch about it a bit earlier in the stream. They did introduce an in-game macro that everyone can use, and this, if you set it up properly, is what you can be using for weaving, which will then make your ability that comes afterwards a slight bit faster in cast. Do you like the weaving in Aion 1 when you compare it to Aion 2? What do you think is more comfortable to play?
You asking me, yeah?
Yeah.
I've got to say I haven't done a lot in Ion 2 because I am trying to not play the game too much before global launch. But I will say that weaving in general is quite common in most MMOs, certainly most MMOs I played. But I couldn't give you a comparison between Ion 2 and Ion 1. Also, because it was like 15 years ago that I played Ion 1, so I can't remember that far back.
Wait. Okay, one second, let me see that. Not the macro, it's third party that attack faster. Like your left mouse right button has a ping, third party reduces the ping and you deal more damage because it's fast animation. With macro, you're fine. So you're talking about the sponsor of
Right.
the channel, Exit Lag, I guess.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
VPNs that help reduce your
um,
ping, right? Yeah.
the overall game is designed so better ping will result in higher DPS. And the way it's currently set up, there's no way around it, right? So if you're not having like a decent ping, especially when you go over 150 ping, it gets noticed like insane. Yeah,
I don't think that problem is going to be as prominent in global launch, and I'll tell you why. Is obviously with Taiwan and Korea, you have the players that were playing that, with different providers, VPN providers, to reduce their ping and their lag, and other players that weren't, right? So there was quite a big gap between the players that were using those VPNs and the players who weren't. But with global launch, nobody's going to have to use a VPN, right? So the ping should be pretty stable for all global regions. So there isn't going to be the need to use these third-party tools. They're not going to make that much of a difference. It's going to be so negligible that it's not worth paying to use those services when we're on global servers. So I think the problem is probably more exaggerated right now because people are trying to play on Korean and Taiwan servers where the ping is considerably noticeable. But that's not going to be the case in global because we're going to be on local global servers, right? So we're not going to need to use these third-party tools. So hopefully that reassures your viewer a little bit there.
yeah, I think we got him wrong. I think he's talking about a stat hack. But how to say it, that exists in any game. Like I don't know what to say there. Like you can have stat hack every game. And if people are stat hacking that, then yeah, like they either ban them
Yeah,
or
I mean,
hack them. And if someone is how to say it, like if you're stat hacking and you do it to like a really mild degree, they will most likely not catch you. because they're monitoring damages and stuff now to get their balancing data. And if they can't, if you don't go over well, they will most likely not get you. And this is what they do. They can't be detected if they only play with friends. No, that's 100% false. If you reach over certain caps, you will get flagged instantly. It doesn't matter with who you're playing. Like you cannot go and stat hack so you one-shot everything and never get caught. That doesn't work. That you will deal so much damage that you will go to a cap in the security and then you will get flagged. That's not possible.
Yeah. I think NC will be doing a lot of work, obviously, to try and ensure that the ping is so low for all players on the servers that it's not going to be necessary or barely any benefit from trying to get your ping even lower. But ping is always going to be there as an issue, right, in any MMO that you play. And there's ways to reduce it. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
Like
personally too concerned about it.
ping, no matter the game, is important. No? If you're playing a shooter and you have
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
other one is having 15, well, if you're at like a decent level, no, or equal skill, then good luck to you if you're the guy with 60. And
Indeed. I would say let's just sorry. Yeah.
if you think that rankings
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That rankings are cheat-free in online games, no single online game has cheat-free rankings. That's impossible. People will always find a way, and there's a lot of with no moral that do not care about like a fair competition. They just want to have the prestige that comes with having a high rank. That's just the way it is.
Indeed. We will just have to put our trust and faith into NC that they will do their best to manage the latency as best as they can for us on the servers, so that it's as stable and as fair as it can be. But yeah, that risk is always there for any game, to be honest. So yeah.
So I'm also done now with the prepared topics. Do you have any topic that you still want to talk about?
No, I think we covered quite a lot there. But all I can say is that we're on the final stretch now to launch, and excitement is at an all-time high. Myself and my legion are super hyped for the game's launch, and hopefully this is the beginning of kind of the new golden age for MMOs, right? The return to Aion. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. And just thank you for having me on the show, Pony. I've been a big fan of yours ever since I heard that Aion 2 was coming out, and I looked up Aion 2 podcasters and streamers. You came up straight away, and you were always pumping out loads of content and updates, whether that's guides or news regarding the game. So it's really appreciated because there's not a huge amount of Western Aion 2 content out there. So your stuff is always top notch. We enjoy keeping up with it, and really happy to have you in our community. So let's keep up the good work, and thank you for having me on. And maybe we'll do this again at some point in the future. Yeah,
sure. Like, was a pleasure, and I really enjoy Alive. Also, if you're looking for a guild, no, of course he doesn't want to say it, no, but Alive is still recruiting. You can check it out in Discord. He posted it on every Discord where you can find guilds. Just come and say hi. It's a casual PvX guild. And of course, I will keep pumping out content. So every Wednesday and Saturday, you will be getting a guide or a news for Aion 2. And as soon as the global release is happening, I will pump out one guide every day for 30 days. So this is what's about to come. And now, do we still have like any questions for the chat before we wrap it up? I would say give you like a couple of minutes.
I should probably add to that, just because I know my office team will shoot me if I don't. Just so everyone knows, Alith is basically a casual social legion. So if you are looking for a more casual experience, then you're very welcome to join us. But we're very organized, so we'll have lots of both PvE and PvP activities organized, and we're quite well established. We've been around for 16 years. So yeah, like Pony said, everyone here is welcome to join us. Just grab the link to our Discord and come on over. But yeah, just I'd highlight what sort of Legion we are as well, just so everyone knows. But yeah, you're all very welcomed. But yeah, questions. I think they must have asked all their questions.
Yeah, I think we got a good timing also to wrap
I think
it
I
up.
lost sound there briefly, but you're back now.
Yeah, I think timing. I would say we call it quits here. And of course, the
Yep.
next episode is going to be again on the first Sunday of the month, like always. So that will be September the 6th, where we will be going live again. And this time we will be going live with Mimics, and we will talk a lot about everything that you can be doing to prepare for global release if you wish to prepare for it and don't enjoy it like raw on the day one. So thanks a lot for tuning